Okay, we're gonna get going. My name is Stacey Kimbrell, and I hope that you guys are all doing fabulous tonight. Sorry for this delay. And everything does not always go as planned or seemed. So whatever. I'm gonna be talking about our family with dyslexia. Go
Did you
ahead.
hit record?
No, I'm gonna start over.
No, it's recording right there. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Jill. What a blessing. Okay. I'm going to just share my screen right now, and that's it. Let's see what happens here. Okay, this is me and my husband, Steve, and our boys from back in the day. In 2007 is when we got into Young Living. And it was quite a shock to learn about health and nutrition and chemical awareness all in the same day while we were camping. Literally makes no sense, but I do believe that when God wants to hit you over the head finally to get you to listen, great things can happen. So when we were camping, my son was hurt. I carried him down to the head cabin lady's house from some Motrin and some Tylenol and some ice. I came from a field of being in the medical field, not as extensive as Jill's, but for 14 years, I worked in medical in some way, shape, or form. I was in the fire department, I worked in the ambulance, in the trauma center, ER center, the urgent care, and the free GYN clinic, which is not the best job ever. And so I know a lot of different things about medical. And if it wasn't approved by the FDA, I was definitely not interested. And my husband would say, hey, you could use cranberry for a bladder infection, or you could do this or that. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. It's not going to work. And so I was adamantly against anything natural. So here we are, we're camping. I got my Diet Coke and Doritos and everything else. And when August, he's the eldest, when he got hurt, he was 12. I asked her for Motrin and Tylenol and some ice. And she said, I have some oils and some ice. And I said, I have no idea what that is. She opened the bottle of wintergreen of a Panaway, and she put it on his ankle. I was like amazed that he's like, Mom, it doesn't hurt. I'm like, that's literally impossible. And he said, can I go back and play? And I'm like, no. I'm like, let me see your ankle. And it smelled so good. And I was thinking about my great grandpa Moore, who's been dead for like, I don't even know, since I was like 14. You know, it's just like, haven't even thought about him forever. It's been so long. And so I didn't understand the correlation at that moment. And so he said, I said, go back and play. So I watched him, I told him to walk, and he started walking and then running and then trotting. And you could see him go through like the woods, you know, and see little sparks of him. And I was yelling like, walk, you know, whatever. And it was like that On Golden Pond moment, if you ever seen that movie, where I was like, I don't even know what's happening right now. This is literally all in 6 minutes. He's been laid up for 2 hours with his foot elevated against a tree. And I was just so confused. Literally the swelling was going down. So moving forward, here's a picture this picture was just taken a little bit ago this summer when my eldest son was back from California. And so the boys were 8 and 12 when we first got involved. Just 1 second. And we're going to continue. Okay, I have a book called Living Balanced. It's on health and nutrition and chemical awareness. My love and passion is to teach people about health and nutrition and chemicals. I obviously love Young Living products. There's other natural things you can bring into it as well. And the whole lifestyle change is what's changed us greatly. So I love to share the information I have. My book has nothing to do with Young Living because I had to take it out when we had the FTC guideline change. And so it's literally 1 to 8 pages on health and nutrition and chemical awareness, everything from A to Z. And my favorite verse is Hosea 4:6, and it says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. I add to it, not for lack of love, not for lack of prayer, and not for lack of faith, but for a lack of knowledge. Because I have been praying for years for many different things in our household, and things just never changed, right? And so this right here, and maybe you've seen this if you've known me from back in the day or not, my son actually drew this picture, and hopefully it's big enough where you can see it. And this is my version of healthcare or sick care. And so this is like the tree of life. I had this in a dream, and all the people in my household are artists. So they were able to collaborate and draw this. So on the right-hand side, you'll see that there's not good, strong, hardy roots. The earth is not nourished. There's a person, this is really fun. There's a person kneeling, this is the face, dying, riddled with illness and disease, okay? And on the left-hand side, you'll see good, strong, hardy roots. You'll see some grass, a flower, and this is a person in here, gotta look real hard. Here's the face that's flourishing with reduced stress, anxiety, and disease. We're probably never gonna be able to get rid of everything that's going on in our life. And if you got hit with a baseball bat in a car accident, hopefully those things never happen. But things can happen in life, but so much of it is what we can do to prevent things that perhaps we just didn't know ahead of time because of how we were raised and grew up, and we just thought that was normal. Oopsie. Every bite you take is either fighting disease or feeding it. And we all can make, like I just had In-N-Out yesterday. I love In-N-Out. We live in Michigan. You can't get no In-N-Out. We live in California. And that is like delicious, right? And it's a better choice from like Burger King or something else. Everything I always talk about is about better choices because, you know, a better choice if you're eating Burger King, you know, 5 days a week would be eat it 3 days a week and then go down to 2 and then go to 1. You know, everything we're going to talk about is making better choices from what we have available to us. And everyone doesn't have the same financial means or even what's available in their area to buy organics perhaps or things. So we just teach about better choices. But we already know everything in our body is either reproducing a healthy cell or unhealthy cell. And so we want to be mindful of what we're doing on a regular basis, because sometimes, of course, you know, you could have fun or whatnot, but doesn't mean that everything in life we should be partaking in. And if you're biblical based, you may not be, but if you are, I don't believe that the Lord said you could pray over your food, right? But you can't pray over man-made chemicals and then pray they heal your body or do something beneficial to you. So when we learned about Burger King and McDonald's, and believe me, like Amanda just said, it's actually 14 years I've been carrying around chicken sandwiches and all this stuff, and they're just in a shoebox. Sometimes the lid's on, sometimes it's not. It's out in the cold. It's inside my house. My dogs won't eat it. Mice don't eat it. It's like the strangest thing ever. We actually had a mouse in our garage, and all that stuff was downstairs, and there was no lid, and the mice didn't even get into it. Okay, so that's not food. If you know it's not straight, if it doesn't dehydrate, or if it doesn't mold within 8 days, like a food should, right? Unless it's like a gourd that's going to dehydrate, for example, or apple will dehydrate if you just left it on the counter. If it's a processed food, it should mold in 8 days. And if it does not, then why are we eating it? And that's the whole thing, is learning about that, because who would know unless you knew? Because we assume that the things on the market are approved by our government and they're okay and safe in some way, shape, or form. And obviously we know that that's not true at these times. If this is brand new to you, find a friend who's got some peace and calming, because it's pretty disheartening. Trichosan, I have this up here just because I just love pulling facts from the CDC and other places, that from the horse's mouth, let's say. I've been teaching on trichosan since 2007 and how bad it was. And of course, it was only a few years ago that I got pulled off the market. People thought it was bananas. They dropped me like a hot potato, whether it was family, church folks, friends. And I mean, it was just crazy how many people like left my life from teaching about diet, because no one wants to change the foods, for sure. And when you go research things, you can go on the MSDS. This has a health hazard of 2. Of course, we know it's been taken off the market now, but out of what's the trichosan was detected in the urine of 75% of the people tested. And it's in so many different things. And so this is just one little snippet of something that I wanted to show you that was in our schools and in our homes for so long, that whenever, remember, your skin's your largest organ. So whatever you put on your skin absorbs into your bloodstream from 3 seconds to 20 minutes, right? And so whether it's good or bad, a pain patch, a birth control patch, what else is there? A smoker's patch, I don't know if I said that. It's all a big Band-Aid that absorbs into the bloodstream, just like when you put on, whether you're putting on Vaseline, which is not a good choice, or something like coconut oil, that is a better choice. So all of that. When we come to BPA, we had this huge come out in the market a few years ago, where BPA is perhaps not the best choice. And that's why they went through this whole big change with the baby bottles. Let me just ask you a quick question. Is it only baby bottles that have plastic? And of course the answer is no. So we have our ketchup and bottles, we have this, we have that. And it always killed me with Heinz ketchup, for example. Their organic ketchup is in a number 3, which is a toxic plastic. but their their regular ketchup is in an okay plastic. Their organic one is in a toxic plastic. So it's like either way they're trying to get you. But learning about plastics, it's not just baby bottles, but if the government went over after, Tupperware, or like, what are we going to put things in containers in? Do you know what I mean? So they only limit to baby bottles because BPA is a synthetic estrogen that comes in through the body from being exposed. If you use any kind of plastics and you heat them up, drinking water in them long term. And I remember one time my kids were gone and Steve and I were doing something and it had 2 water bottles in the freezer on the counter. And I went by, like, it looked like crackers are floating in there. I was like, man, who took a drink of my water? That's my first thought. And Steve's like, no one did. They're not even here. I was like, oh, I forgot my kids were gone. And so he's like, what is that? And I'm like, I don't know. So I did this little experiment. And when you put water bottles, and I don't remember which ones it is now, but when you put them in the freezer and then take them out and defrost them, all this like white stuff starts floating around in there. I'm like, what in the world? So it's just being aware. When you look at BPA, you really want to do your best to have stainless steel or glass, finding the ones that have rubber around it, doing something in a better fashion so that we're not absorbing it. And then even, a lot of people think that stainless steel is a bottle that they perhaps have, but really it's aluminum. So if it's not an 18 gauge on there somewhere, then that's aluminum. So you don't want that on a regular basis, especially if you're using your oils and other things like that. Okay, we talked about this just a little bit, and we're talking about 60% of what you put on your skin is absorbed. That is really important because, as we just said, chemicals absorb into the body. And of course, when you breathe, eat, consume in any different orifice, whether you have eye drops or ear drops, or so you're using something vaginal or rectal, this is obviously absorbing into the orifices as well. It's a quick delivery agent when you put something in an orifice, okay? And so if it's, I'll just say it here, I'm sure kids, well, I guess there's adults who have ADD, right? But if you're using like KY jelly, a better choice would be coconut oil or some other things in the market that you could get, even depending on what you're using it for. Like Amanda, what'd you say your favorite was? She's not listening. So I'm going to tell you what she said.
Wait, what?
No, I'm going to say Ortho Ease, perhaps, right? So it's too late. You weren't listening. So that's a better choice because that's petroleum, right? And there's formaldehyde and BPA in there, and that's absorbing in the vaginal canal. Like, that's not a good thing. And so all these things that we're doing to us do have an effect. Let me keep going here. Wow. Okay, so chemicals absorb into your body, as we just talked about, body burden. That's really important to be aware of, and all the different things that it can cause. Okay, getting to my favorite topic here. I didn't realize I was dyslexic until I was in college. Had no clue my whole life, starting like in middle school that I remember was, can you shut that on? I was in special ed classes, Dr. Batten or Mr. Batten. I remember this guy, he was really a nice guy. And he's like, you got special skills and talents. I'm like, yes, I do, but I can't read. My spelling, grammar, syntax, all that stuff. Like, to this day, I don't know what syntax is. I don't know the syllable. I don't know syllables. I definitely don't know spelling. And I'm not too good at grammar. Like, there's nothing I have found yet with Ninja Red or oils or nutrition or magnesium that can help with those things. If you guys know something, please let me know. But with dyslexia, I grew up thinking that, okay, I see like 4 pillows right now. So if your number was 3, 4, 6, I'd be like, okay, there's 3 chairs, there's 4 green pillows. My brain thinks extremely different. And I had to do that to be able to cope, to figure out how to do and memorize things, right? And no one knew about dyslexia when I was in school. I graduated in 87. I should have never graduated. And a matter of fact, I was afraid to open the diploma. I didn't know that they wouldn't tell you ahead of time. And my boyfriend at the time, he's like, let me see it. And I was like, I don't want to know. And I got passed. And like, I like beelined it to my teachers right after the ceremony. I'm like, how in the world did you pass me? And they all told me, all of my different teachers, they said I had a personality and they thought I'd make it somewhere in life. And they didn't want me to be held back by not being able to not have my graduation diploma. And so I was shocked because reading is not all my school projects. I would build a city of Africa out of clay, or I'm creative like that, and or do something, you know, make a macrame something. But reading was not one of those things. So it was just really hard. Typing, it even affects with me transposing my letters and my numbers. Writing, I'll write something and I'll write the whole thing backwards. My brain thinks with this part of the sentence and then this part, I think and sometimes say this part and then can go to this part. If my husband was here, he could tell you a lot more. Sometimes I start talking about chickens and red signs. That's a favorite story my son likes to tell. If I have not had my nutrition, which I'll be talking about in a second. They say dyslexia is inherited. For this one, for everything that I've done for the last 14 years, I would have to definitely agree with that. And I'd have to say at this point, at least so far, there is not a cure. If you guys know one, someone lay it on me because I'm all good with it. What I can tell you is excitingly, I have overcome it for the most part, unless I'm not doing my nutrition, which is like, you've got to be kidding me. So 34.5 million Americans say they struggle with dyslexia. Outrageously, the majority of them come from Michigan, and supposedly because of the Great Lakes and the water. So I don't know what's going on there, but whatever, that's what they say. And the problem with having dyslexia in the school system is they give you allowances. They don't help you to learn how to overcome or to move forward. So I was always allowed to take my test for so much longer or go to a special room, but then you're missing out everything else that's going on for all the other stuff because it takes me so much longer to do something. So at this point, I started taking 6 ounces of Ninja, I'll talk about dyslexia right now, when in 2007, and I did that for 6 months, but it didn't even take that long, and like a couple months. Everyone that I've known personally since I was a kid growing up with my family, my parents, my siblings, my husband, were like outraged with like my lack of dyslexia. Now, this is my personal thing, and it's true. It's like, if I don't consume it, like if I miss like 5 days, more than 5 days for sure, I'm going to sound like a hot mess. And you can definitely tell. If Nikki's listening tonight, she'll know I had to down a whole bottle on the way up north one time. We had like a 5-hour drive so I could talk legible, and it worked. And so it was just really fascinating. So to this day, 14 years later, if I don't consume it on a regular basis, my dyslexia comes back pretty quick. I start drinking again, which I almost always drink Ninja Red, like almost every single day, unless you're traveling and give it to someone or something, right? So it's just really fascinating how that, and I take Mega-Cal and the good fats. And obviously all of us do the best that we can do. And of course, throughout the years, the government has given false information, in my opinion, where, don't have sugar, or artificial sweetener, no eggs, no yolks, only do whites, getting rid of no butter, getting rid of all the good fats, the essential sugars, all that kind of stuff. And so people have suffered because of that. So our parents, and of course myself as well, always do the best that you can do with the knowledge you have at the time. But I pretty much poisoned my kids, which is part of this whole story, growing up. The only thing I did right was never give them soda, I always say. And that's pretty much it, right? So when you get facts and you're helping someone with something, I just love going to the horse's mouth, as I said. So ADHD, per the CDC, these are some outstanding numbers here where they're talking about, I gotta put my glasses on, sorry. 388,000 children, 2 to 5, have it. I mean, how are you gonna know if a 2-year-old has ADHD, right? And I was blessed to be able to teach at a couple of classes for college for Intro to Psych, Kathy Patterson. And so that was a blessing. She offered me to come and teach in her, she was a teacher there for psychology. And it was such a blessing. I said, listen, my kids struggle with this stuff. I struggle with this stuff. I said, you gotta ask these kids or their parents, did you just have a hot dog? Did you just have some Doritos? Did you have some red dye? Have some Hawaiian punch? I mean, that was the normal thing in my household. So did you have some Oreos? Let's just go down the line of just crappy things that don't do anything for you to build up your nutrition. And so people just throwing away their Monster drinks and whatever. When I would go teaching there, I said, you gotta ask these questions, because you have to understand, besides ADHD, which of course they have medications for, they are diagnosing bipolar at age 4. but have no regard to if they're even drinking water or have good fats, or even if they're eating. So this is like a serious problem, just over medication, of course. They wanted our boys on ADHD medicine since the get-go. I think they were like 4 or 5. I'd have to ask Steve to remember correctly on this. They were in special ed, my boys, both of them, since 4 years old. Okay. And like the movie Groundhog Day, I never even wanted to watch it because I was living this life. And because I had my own special issues, I wanted to make sure my kids knew, and there's a 4-year difference. I want to make sure that my kids knew what I struggled with, like didn't struggle with it, right? And so our first, when August, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, I had no decorations in my house. I had all teacher things from a teacher supply store, and we go over, A, B, C, D, whatever. And I remember this one time, I just wanted to like cry forever. And then my husband's like, don't teach them anymore, because I'm trying to teach them how I think it would help, but nothing's helping at this point, right? So he was like 4 years old. He wanted to give, what do you call that stuff? Valentine's Day cards. He wanted Spider-Man. I said, the only way we're going to hand these out is if you write your name on all of them. So we're trying, we were working all day on this, and he just wanted to do this so bad. So I was doing sensory stuff before it like even came out. So on the stove, I'd make a and with soap and all this kind of stuff. So we did A was up, down, and across, and U was a swoosh, and whatever, right? So Steve came home and we just did like 35 of these cards. And I said, tell Dad, how do you spell your name? And he said, up, down, and across, swoosh, whatever. And I was like, oh my God. I was like crying, and Steve was like, what are you teaching him? I was like, oh my God, like seriously, I didn't just tell him that. This is an A and this is whatever. It was traumatizing. Like I only had 2 kids. I only wanted one in the beginning. And then, not that I didn't want my younger son, he obviously knows he's loved and he's wanted, but both of them struggled so greatly with schooling that Steve's like, we're not having any more kids. Like our combo with schooling, this does not work, we thought. And I wanted to adopt for years, but he's like, I don't want to take the chances, man. So the CDC, this recommendation is outrageous. How many people, adult and children, have ADHD? And then wait till you see some of these other facts. It's like totally outrageous. About 5 in 10 children have it with a behavior problem or a conduct problem. My kids both had those too. They were in the planning room all the time. And of course, they have some kids that have it with other spectrums, with autism and Tourette's and depression and different things. The ADHD treatment, per the CDC, is 3 out of 4 children currently have it. 62% are taking ADHD medicine, 47 receive behavioral treatment, and 9 out of 10 children have received school support and accommodations in the classroom in some way, shape, or form, which both of my kids did as well. And I'm throwing this in here because I love to teach on it. And this next month, I'm doing a whole teaching, well, actually, last 2 weeks, I'll be posting soon on this, teaching on cancer. But the reason why I'm throwing this in here is because not only does poor nutrition affect people with dyslexia, obviously does for ADHD, because this is a good part I'm getting to for what happens to our children. But if we keep on this lifestyle of medicating and not looking at the diet at all, and when we eat, drink, think, or not drink, think, but eat and drink, put on our body, absorb, breathe in, whatever, we're headed for worse things than ADHD, and that's cancer. So they have a new stat out there that over 50,000 Americans expected to die a month with the new stats for cancer. And this is just outrageous. And part of it is alcohol, drugs, of course, poor nutrition, lack of physical activity. And so it's just a lot, okay? There's just so many things that go on with this. Hold on. I'm gonna go past that. Okay, so this is what I ask you. You have to know for you and your family when you're starting to make a change, what kind of piggy you are, okay? So are you a straw piggy, which means you're just gonna drink your Ninja Red along with your Yoo-Hoo chocolate milk and Oreos? Or are you a straw and mud piggy that if you drink your chocolate milk, you'll maybe do it 3 days a week instead of twice a day? That's a better choice, along with your Ninja Red, let's say. And then a brick house piggy is pretty much going to go cold turkey and turn the whole family upside down. And that's what we did. You don't have to do that. That's what we did back in the day. But remember, this was 14 years ago when there was like literally very little resources for organic foods, or the only thing we knew about chia seeds is that you could put them in a pet, right? We didn't know we could eat this stuff. And so it's really important that we have so many resources now of better choice foods. And it doesn't always have to be outrageously expensive, okay? So you have to know who you and your family are, so that if you put your family on a brick house plan, you're not going to be successful. If you need to do baby steps, then that's okay, let's do it. Because so many things are easy to switch out and flip out. One of the biggest things to make a difference with is changing, for example, your potato chips. If it's got a flavor, you know it's probably not straight, okay? Remember the hidden name. I know the slide is missing somehow, but I have this cheat sheet and I'll put it attached to here. If you've never seen it before, it's like 100 of the worst chemicals and it divides them by colors and that kind of thing. And so there's over 26 different names for MSG, but when it comes into the organic land, then you're gonna be talking about yeast extract is the main name for MSG when it's coming to something that's healthy, okay? So just because it's in a health food store does not mean. Celebrating 35 years of performance. Okay, let me mute that person. Okay, I love this by Jim Rohn. It says, take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. And let me get this. So one of the best things that we can start to do here is 75% of your brain is water. So you have to at least drink half your body weight in ounces of water a day. And what you consume from swallowing your toothpaste, in soup, and in your beverage does not count, right? So, we have to make sure you can put a rubber band around it and say to fill it up 5 times and take off one each time, or get, 5 water bottles. I got this big bottle for my son. I said, listen, you got to at least drink 2 of these minimum. You should have 3, right? But if you're normally doing 1, try to add another 1 for that week and get used to 2 and then do 3 and, so forth, right? So water is essentially important. This is literally outrageous. This happened to our family, and I know many people that I help with that this is the same thing. I don't care who you are. If you eat 3 solid meals a day, how many times should you be pooping a day? 3, right? It goes in, something should be coming out. Not the same food, but whatever. If you can see your food when it comes out, that's a problem, unless it's corn or beets, right? Corn and beets are always going to be something that you see when you eliminate, okay? The color of beets, actual corn. And if you get this visual, this will help out greatly. So if you eat 3 meals a day, that's 1,095 meals in a year. If you poop only once a day, which is really special if you do, that's like awesome. It's not the best, but that's pretty good. That means you only poop 365 times that year. That means you still have 730 meals inside you. So if you only eat twice a day, then figure out the numbers on that, of course. But your digestive system is 80% of your immune system. I say this because as an adult, we need to get this figured out, right? But as for the children, I'm telling you, we used to have to get a spoon and bend my one son, I know he'll never watch this, so I'm gonna say it, over the couch and help get a spoon to pull poop out of his butt. The doctor said some kids are good poopers, some aren't. I'm like, oh gosh, that must be true. You can take Miralax, which is polyethylene glycol. No, I mean, I did back then. I didn't know any better, but that is not good. It's like you're taking a spoon of Vaseline. And so that is disruptive to the liver, to the digestive system, the little villi, and they're like putting a Schlack system over your system so you can't absorb your nutrients. You can never, if you're skinny mini and you're trying to gain weight, doesn't mean that you will, but you never could, or a kid, if you have to eliminate properly to even have the villi absorb, right? And you have like poop brain. Does that make sense? Like if your digestive system is that clogged up and not eliminating properly, you will have brain fog. And it's just amazing when you get this fixed in a person, how much better they feel overall. I mean, they're literally being weighed down by you know what, and it's a problem. It's very disruptive to the whole body and including the brain. Why Young Living supplements? I don't know what time it is. Let's see here. Amanda, tell me, am I already halfway? Or tell me when I'm halfway.
Yeah, it's
5:36. Okay, good. Why Young Living supplements? Young Living is the best. And when Young Living, if there's an issue that needs to be changed because you learned something new in life, they go ahead and change that and fix it. I'm just going to give you an example. We used to have folic acid in our vitamin B, And now we don't. We have folate. Okay, that's a better choice because we don't want folic acid, and especially if someone has mutation issues with MTHFR, you just can't have it. I have that problem. Of course, how much of that stuff did I take when I was pregnant with my children? That has an effect on our fetuses as well. Okay, so Young Living supplements are made with whole food sources. They're infused with essential oils, which is just like awesome. And of course, we use the highest standard ingredients without heavy metals, chemicals, dyes, flavorings, and all that kind of stuff. So it's very important to be aware of when you're getting a supplement. A lot of them say titanium dioxide, and that's literally titanium metal that is ground up that makes something ultra white. So you can make things that look so crisp and clean, but like, how are you going to get partially white? You know, I mean, whatever. It just doesn't even make any sense. So it's just stuff we want to be aware of and look at in the future. I'm going to go through this part and I will post this presentation. We'll figure out where to post it so you can have it for yourself because there's a lot of great information here, but I need to skip forward for some things. So I'm really sorry about the delay in the beginning, but we can't control the internet where we're at, right? So, and just so you know, I was responsible. I did a test earlier today to make sure everything was working correctly, but I left the building and came back and it wouldn't work. So per the CDC, this is literally outrageous. They say that ADHD is linked to the deficiencies of iron, magnesium, vitamin D, and zinc. I'm like, hallelujah. Like they know this. Like I was shocked to even say they say this information. And literally, this is what they tell you, but where's the efforts of all doctors and whatever? And I'll tell you one more thing. It's like our family, besides me getting COVID this last year, unfortunately, this last year, 13 years with no prescriptions or store-bought medicines, and 14 years for my husband and my two sons with no prescriptions or store-bought medicines. That is not because we're cute and we live in Flint, Michigan, okay? That is because of what we're doing. So that's exciting to know. We did have, my clause with that is we did have Austin, my youngest son, on a prescription medication for 1 month. Oh, okay, for 1 month. And he has like severe ADHD. I mean, that kid was just all over the board with stuff. And so I said, I just got to know if it's going to make it work. If it's going to make him, can he think through a process in a program? And if he's got to do math or put both shoes and socks on, because he'd always come with only one shoe and one sock, you know, like this kind of stuff, right? And Amanda, do you know how to change this? Can you do this while I'm talking if you can? I don't know if you can, but no. Okay. Okay, so
You're good.
okay, thanks. So here's my ADD. Like ADHD, let me get some. Okay, so that's awful. Austin, he come every day with one sock and one shoe. He wouldn't know if he had any homework. He wouldn't know this. I cried, I can't even tell you, for 30 days. This kid I had him on the lowest dose possible of Adderall, 5 milligrams. I believe it was 5 milligrams. He knew his name. I never had to say, where's the other sock and shoe? He knew when he came home, he had to do homework that was every other page, 1 through 5, 2 through 6. It was a miracle. Honestly, this drug is a miracle, except for all of its side effects. If it wasn't so bad, I'd be on it, right? And I asked him, I said, how you feel? He said, I know everything. He remembered things. He could do things that were not in his normal capability. He said, but I don't like how it makes me feel. And I said, okay, you don't have to be on it. And he was aware of it. He talked straight to him. You know, we're trying to figure out if you're capable and if there is hope. I want to say this the wrong way, but we have tried so much money, I can't even tell you, and different things to try to help this child that I'm like, is it even possible he can get help, or is it not possible? Gosh, I wish we had more time. So it was so difficult. And so that's why I put him on. That's why we chose to put him on it for a month, to see if there's even a capability, because then I can go search for what can make a difference. And the oils did, GABA did. There's a lot of different things we use, which we'll go over in a second. But I don't know. It's a really rough situation because that drug is just fascinating. What it does, let me go over here. Magnesium, I have to go down here. the CDC, as I said, I'll post this because they have so much great information. It was just incredible. They actually tell you what it does and everything and how much you need. When it came to, let me share my screen. When it came to the oils, this is like part of what we used on a regular basis. And these oils are amazing. He didn't like the smell of peppermint. He still sort of hates peppermint. It's going to load in a second. But I would put it at the top of his head and rub it in his hair. He was the only kid who never got lice in his class, which seemed to be a thing back in the day. And then he loved the smell of orange or tangerine. So if it wasn't the summer, I'd rub that all over his face before he went. We used to have these big old chunky necklaces that were like from the African wood that had holes in it. Now, if you guys know, they're like that big. He used to wear that all the time. And I would put oils on his bottom of his feet. And we would definitely put white angelica and joy oil on the bottom of his feet, because this kid would be happy, sad, pissed, cry. It was like, oh my gosh, it was just so crazy. And so that made such a huge difference. And we could tell. So once again, the top of the head, the brainstem, where your hair meets your neck, and at the bottom of the feet, mostly for kids, because especially as a boy, you don't want to smell like joy and, you know, all these different oils. Peppermint and orange he could get away with. And I always taught him, I said, if someone says, what's that smell? I said, you say, do you like it? And I said, if they say yes, say, hey, it's me and it's orange. If they say no, say, well, I would tell them, if they say no, just say, well, I don't know then, you know, whatever. And so just to try to help them with, because obviously people always like, what's that smell? And trying to say something. The nasal diffusers, and when you buy those on Amazon, you got to be careful, because a lot of times they're not cotton wicks and they're really disruptive to the chemicals in your brain. If you're not buying cotton wicks, you really got to research that. And we use the cold air diffuser, and that's a diffuser with no water. And we would literally put that in there, like especially like peppermint and lemon, when he was trying to do homework for memory, for concentration, rosemary, all these different ones really helped out. Ninja Red is something that our family literally overdosed on. This really helped my eldest son, and he was more apt to take it than Austin, my younger son. This hits all the buttons, in my opinion, for nutrition. And if you don't know about Ninja Red, you really just got to research this big time, because like, how does a 38-year-old learn how to read and concentrate and focus and not have dyslexia present? That's just not normal, you know? So you got to be aware that this is a high food nutrients that covers so many spectrums. I don't care how old the child is. It could be a year old or less. It'd be better than what they're offering you to give to them, right? So if you need nutrition, let's get it to people. Olive essence is sort of new with Young Living. I do love this. Not only does it support the vascular system, the whole immune system, heart health, and internal cleansing. There's more, but you can't say it, right? So learn what olive oil does. When I was in Europe, I would learn that people there consume a liter of olive oil per person per month. They don't have the same kind of heart disease and issues we have. We need good fats in our brain to function correctly. Omega Gize is another great fish oil that you can use for you and your whole family. And if you have to, like my kids, you know, we have to be parents. Let me say something real quick. We have to be parents. And so often I hear this all the time, and it just drives me bananas. Oh, my kid won't drink it, or he won't do this, or, you know, I can't get him to this. I'm like, my kids want to go play, and they want to go play video games. They want to go outside. They want to do whatever it is. I'm like, you're not going anywhere until you take your little supplements or drink your juice or do whatever it is that needs to be done. I had a trampoline and a foot roller. They had to use it for 5 minutes on each foot before they could go do anything. And if I could have rigged the TV to a bicycle, I would have done that myself. So like, be in control, because we control what comes into our household. In the beginning, I had to lie a little bit, which I don't advertise that's the best thing to do. But my son was like so addicted to corn dogs. He's like, there's no more corn. Where's corn dogs? You already took away our Doritos. And he was getting all agitated, and I got to deal with all that. And plus the issues, you know, with all this stuff, right? Amanda muted me. Thank you. Okay. So now, what was I saying? You just messed me up.
Keep going about Austin.
About what?
The Doritos and you were upset.
Oh yeah, so I had to say, I said, I'd have a conversation with my husband when he was in earshot. So he's listening. I said, Steve, I said, I don't know what's going on. I said, but Kroger's doesn't have any corn dogs, and so doesn't Myers. I said, they're out of them. Isn't that strange? So now they weren't mad at me. They were mad at Kroger's and Myers, right? So you can do those kind of little things, a little manipulative, but whatever, it worked. Mega Cal is another one that we consumed a lot. And of course it has zinc in it as well. Very beneficial for everybody. Plus it helps the bowels moving and just, am I allowed to say that? Hold on. Supports normal bone and vascular health as well as nerve function. How do your bowels know to work? The nervous system sends a signal to make it work, right? Okay. Okay, so let me unshare this or stop share. Amanda, how much time do I have?
15 minutes.
Wow, this computer and this whole thing today is just outrageously not working correctly. Okay, trying to definitely throw me off. I have to tell you that,
Fantastic.
pardon me?
You're doing fantastic.
Okay, great. So she said, I'm doing fantastic. I have nothing to worry about. I just hate when things don't go as scheduled, but whatever. So I have to tell you from my heart, and I know I'm speaking to young living people, but if I had to give up the knowledge about chemicals, if I had to choose between chemical knowledge to teach everybody or young living, it'd be a really hard toss up, and I'd see if I could do every other day, each one, okay? Because if you don't have the base of learning about red dyes, MSG, what it can do to a person in a family, and the artificial sweeteners and all these chemicals that are literally dumbing down people and destroying our bodies and our brains. And we do this from the get-go because we don't realize. I couldn't breastfeed. I had trouble. I was uptight, whatever. I got nothing coming out here. And so I gave him these nasty formulas with high fructose corn syrup and all this stuff. Like I had no idea. Literally, there's even artificial sweetener and canola oil in there. I'm just like, now when I do this, I'm like, oh my gosh, why couldn't I learn this earlier? Like if I could have children over, or again, I would do it to try to do it right. Again, right? Or do it right the first time, I guess. It's like, it was so traumatizing. And I've already apologized to my kids when they're 8 and 12. I said, listen, I jacked you all up. I had no idea about any of this stuff, but let's just move forward and let's try to build a firm foundation now. And let's just go forward. So I don't know if I said this or not, but since all my stuff is a little messed up here, but when we went camping, my eldest son, August, was 3 grades below in reading. 3 grades below through testing. And I wanted him held back, but they wouldn't do it because then they lose their money. Like I was in a fight with the school system that summer. And they were both in special ed since 4 for speech learning, severe speech delay and illegible. And Austin had occupational issues. He couldn't like button his clothes. He couldn't jump, just like weird stuff, right? And when we started learning about this and changed our diet cold turkey, it was literally outrageous. We took out the bad, we brought in good and nutrition. Not only was I affected in a positive, but so was the rest of my family and these boys. And within the year, they were like out of all of their special services. That is not a coincidence. It's like, I just can't even tell you. And one of the biggest things, I want to say this, but I don't want to get emotional when I say it, so I'll try not to. I should probably put some peppermint around just in case. But if you believe in it, you got to pray about it and ask the Lord to reveal to you what the issues are, because no one wants to change their diet. And I remember if I couldn't kill it, which I don't kill things, and if I couldn't cut it, we didn't eat it for the first 6 months, like since August 1st of 2007. I learned about this July 23rd. I got home on August 1st, which is my son's birthday. The poor kid had the worst birthday ever because I'm like, no cake for you now. As soon as we got home, I looked into the chemicals, found it in some of our main foods right then. I was like on FDA's website and all this stuff. So right from that day, we went cold turkey, and it was very difficult. But 6 months into it, it was like cold. And I thought, we used to always eat this hamburger with mushroom soup and noodles and onions and all this kind of stuff. And it was Campbell's mushroom soup. So we made that up. And then basically the crap hit the fan that night, right? I took a nap. I woke up. I turned into like witchy poo again. Like I was often witchy poo. We come from a biblical based family. And I can't tell you how many times I was looking at getting divorced because our whole house was so chaotic. I just couldn't even take it. And I know my husband didn't like it either, but it's like, everything is just backwards. Okay. And so so anyhow, I get up, my sons are doing the dishes together. As soon as I walked into the kitchen, I said, what are you doing? And they're like, I'm doing dishes. I'm like, you're doing it wrong. And I started yelling at them. And I thought, what am I doing that? And Steve's like, what's your problem? I was like, I don't even know what just happened. Like, it was the best, weirdest out-of-body experience ever. And then I went into the bathroom and came back and started yelling at the kids. And then my husband came over. He's like, what's your problem? And then we started getting in a fight, right? So we're like yelling at each other. Now Austin starts crying, which he used to do all the time, which used to drive me nuts. I'm like, what are you crying for? Like, we're all eating the same crap. So I'm telling you, this is like Satan's biggest food to destroy God's people and to destroy people and the household and the mindset and behavior. And I don't care how old you are. And Austin and I used to always be like George Foreman and Muhammad Ali, man. It was just not good. And I know I'm an adult, but I couldn't like control it. Like, I didn't know what was happening. And anyhow, so Steve is like, what did you make? And like, obviously he knew. So I went to go look through the labels and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, there's 6 MSGs in this one can. I ate one can by myself because I used to love this stuff. And I put another can and a half in this dish, right? And so it was the best day, literally, of one of the best days of my life, because you got to see what was going on. Because since the kids were in special ed for so long, this is the part that's hard to say, is that Austin, when we would eat dinner, he'd always hold his head. He said, you don't know what's in my head. You don't know my mind. I'm like, what in the hell is wrong with you? And I'm like, do I gotta lock my doors at night? And we have to see a psychiatrist because of his issues in the school. They want him on these meds. It was just a hot mess. And what happens is because the darn foods. And that's literally it. So this is why if I had to make a choice between Young Living and chemicals, I would choose to teach about chemicals every day for the rest of my life, because it made such a difference. Austin's here, but he's in the pool, and I wanted him to talk, but maybe one day. It changed our whole family, and obviously Young Living and other nutritional things have a huge benefit for us. But the chemicals destroy people. They destroy your mind. They turn me into a Captain B. I'm sure you can guess what that is. It made my son really negative and whiny and cry. He'd be like, you gave me too much ice cream. It's so sunny. The grass is so green. I'm like, how are any of these things possible that you can give someone too much ice cream and the grass is too green? And then he'd start singing. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, I don't even know what's happening. My husband would always get these sinus headaches. He was on all this medication. Guess what it's from? It was from all the crap we're eating. So if you want to eat potato chips, eat them, but don't eat any with flavors in it. Find a better choice. You know what I mean? If you guys eat fast food, and you know what, when you make a change in your household, it's great to mandate some things, but do an experiment. On my website, in my book, if you have it, Austin's whole French fry experiment is in there. You guys can do that so that the kids can see. When I teach to kids, they're so resilient. They're like, I'm never going to eat that again. Their mom could say, you're going to get in trouble if you don't eat that. And they're like, I'd rather get in trouble. Like, they will not touch it. If you educate the kids in a way that helps them empower them to see and make better choices. You know, what grown folks want to do is what they want to do. And we used to use the microwave and all that stuff. And I told my kids, like, we're not using the microwave. We're not doing this, this, and this, right? So one day I came home and I wasn't prepared, and I got foods, whatever kind of food, in a fast food styrofoam, and I was putting it in the microwave. And you know how you can hear that ding, 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 whatever. My kids come from nowhere. I could call them all day. They don't hear me, right? And all of a sudden they hear a microwave. And they came like, what are you doing? They had their arms crossed like this. And I'm like, I said, go back in your room. And they're like, I thought you said we're not using the microwave. I said, we're not. She's like, I'm going to go tell Dad. I was like, tell Dad what? You know, I'm the one who's making the food right now. So anyhow, they're like, we're not leaving until you stop using that microwave. And then my oldest, he's like, you should just cook it on the stove. I'm just like, oh, it's going to take too long. But, you know, and when I teach that part to people now, it's like, listen, back in the day, they had to go chop it down a tree and then chop up some wood and then put it in a fire, figure out how to light that sucker, and then put your food on there and cook it. So we have it so easy today. So get an air fryer, get a toaster oven. Do not use a microwave. I don't even have one in my house. And I haven't used it in 14 years. And so it's just, there's so many things and choices and opportunities that we have, that we can empower ourselves, not just for dyslexia, for ADD or cancer, or any other illness or disease, but to really dive in and make a better choice. And if your family's not on board yet, I'm telling you, this is really true. before your friends or family will necessarily make a difference, they want to see if you're really into it and dedicated and how long you're going to stick with it. So if you have to, for a little bit, make different meals depending on the structure of your family and if your spouse, male or female, like some guys are cool with and the wives aren't, whatever the case is, right? If you need to, you stay consistent. Just because someone else is having crack doesn't mean you have to have it too, right? So do what you need to do. Help people see that you're going to make a difference. Start transferring things into a way that people can see a difference. And like we used to always use Aunt Jemima. So I bought another Aunt Jemima container. I poured half out, poured half maple syrup in it, real maple syrup. And they're like, it's tasting different, but they saw the label like, oh, it's Aunt Jemima. I'm like, and I kept dwindling that down that way. And the last time they had it, it was the funniest thing ever. I poured syrup on their food. It was maple syrup, but I put the Aunt Jemima container right here, right? So they all took a bite. I wish I had this on video. And they looked over and they saw Aunt Jemima and they're like, all of them went like this. I'm just like, oh my gosh, you guys are crazy. And then of course they wanted more. And so then I gave them the pancakes. I said, well, go get the syrup. And then my son said, this isn't open. I said, that's right. Cause I didn't use Aunt Jemima. I used the real stuff. Now Aunt Jemima can go in the trash. And now you guys know we're just doing maple syrup. So, everything is a process and just trying to make better choices. As I said, there's so many more out there today than what we used to have. So that's fantastic. What else, Amanda? Anything? Questions. Okay, there we go. I'm sure there may be a lot. I'm not sure. Is there any that you can see or no?
A couple people asked about your protocols, but I didn't end up sharing.
The main thing that we did was Ninja Red. It's easy. If someone doesn't like the taste, whenever I give someone Ninja Red, because they may not like it, then you got to deal with that, right? I always give them a little shot glass, adult, child, whatever. I said, I'm doing an experiment. Don't drink all of it, only drink half. And just tell me what you think. Do you like it? 1 through 10, 10 being the highest, right? And then I put orange or tangerine in there, which is like amazing because now they smell it and almost everyone loves the smell of orange or tangerine, right? And I haven't tried it again. I'm like, do you like it better? They're like, oh, I liked it the other way. Oh my gosh, it tastes so good now. I'm like, oh, awesome. You can have this too. Some kids are just a straight pain in the butt and they won't want it, but if it's yours, they will. So my girlfriend would always pour her own cup, pretending like she's drinking it. And then her son would drink it. She's like, don't drink my drink. And then, whatever. Call it ninja juice, do whatever you got to do. But Ninja Red is the main thing. The oils of white angelica and joy oil, appropriate places depending on boy or girl, so they don't have to be embarrassed by smelling it. Peppermint, cedarwood, lavender, rosemary are essential, even if you have to lube them up at night and not during the day. But peppermint, breathing in a nasal inhaler is not going to affect anyone with different smells. Using a diffuser with no water, which you can get on Amazon, or you can go to my website, which is livinganointed.com, or for my book, or Amazon, or whatever the case is. But using that is huge because it goes right into your olfactory system and starts changing the chemical waves in your brain. And there's a great study by Dr. Friedman. I don't know if we can find it online anymore, but ask somebody, they'll be able to give it to you. And magnesium is so important, and good fats. If you don't drink water, don't get good fats, and are not pooping appropriately, you're not going to get very far. And then the one last thing, I don't care who you are, if you can only afford one supplement in life, I would always tell you to take an enzyme. Because if you cannot digest, process, and assimilate the nutrients that you're consuming, good or bad, to get it out of your body or absorb it, then you're not going to get very far at all. So enzymes are literally the most important piece of the diet that you can ever do. They help control your eyes blinking, your speech, your heart beating, everything. It helps to run your central nervous system. Like enzymes you just need in life. So you see anything else, Amanda, offhand? And the Grow will post a cheat sheet here that you're welcome to print out. And you just start making better choices. And if you have any questions, of course, you can let me know.
A great story is told where Austin works now.
Oh my gosh, this is so outrageous. So the school that they wanted, thank you, the school that they wanted Austin to go to when he was younger, and just so you know, like he had to wear AFO braces that goes from your knee down to his feet. He couldn't walk flat footed. If he did, he'd be crying. He looked like he was always walking on a horse. They would not allow us to go to physical therapy. They wanted to do Botox injections in his calf muscles. And if you don't know what Botox is, you can go look it up. But I like to get rid of this butt crack. My son calls it right here, right? But if I had it plumped out, I would never frown again. You guys would never know what I was thinking, right? But it's there. But Botox will deaden that for the rest of your life. So, and this is the other thing. If you're ever teaching on this stuff, on whatever in life, always pray that you say what you need to say for who's in the crowd. So this is part of it. I was teaching one time. This lady started getting upset and her son started getting really agitated. So I said, hey, let's have a bathroom break and whatever. And so I went to them to ask what's going on, if I could help. And she said, that's what I did with my son. We gave him Botox injections. Now he's wheelchair bound because the muscles atrophied. And I was like crying because I thought, oh my God, if it wasn't for my husband, I probably would have done all these medical things on my kids, because I was like so overwhelmed, like, what are you supposed to do? This is your only recourse, they tell you. So thank the Lord we never did that. But where they wanted Austin to go to school is called the GSID in our Flint area. And it's for, I don't even know what their appropriate term is, but it's for autism, kids with autism and special needs. How do you say it? Special needs, like, and the school was non-functioning kids that I'm not sure, I'm not trying to say it the wrong way, you guys, I don't know how to say it right now. But when I went there were children who were not able to feed themselves, who were standing in front of a wall. I mean, or just like you're saying, they told us that that's where Austin should go because he was not going to be a functioning part of society. I don't know why you're telling me the story again. I'm crying. Anyhow, that's where he works at right now, that school system. And he knows that story, but he just got this job like like 8 months ago or something, right? And so I sat him down like the day before he's gonna go, and I said, son, you gotta understand what's going on here. This is like where they wanted you to go to school. And the goal is he knows so much about health and nutrition because he's been helping me teach for years, back and forth. I said, I want to get a hold of these parents and these kids. You're the vehicle to help do that so that we can help educate them, to let them know that to some extent, there's possibly a better choice that can help with a better outcome, whether it's 50, 80, or 100%, right? You're 100% improved. So if that can happen with you, it can happen with anybody. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be 100%, but something is better than nothing. So for him to be working in the same school that he was supposed to go to, that's only for disabilities, extreme, it's outrageous, and something can happen for anybody. So I hope this has blessed you in some way, shape, or form, and that you can glean something from it. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments, and I will go through this week and start answering them, put links or whatever I can do. Okay, thank you so much, Miss Amanda.
Wow. Good. Oh, okay, good. Okay. Sorry, guys. Oh.
You can put it down.
We're sitting together.
Okay. Hi, guys. I was right behind her, and so it started echoing. We're just trying to do our best here and work in a hotel conference room when we don't have Wi-Fi at home. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. She is just full of information. An hour is just never enough time, but I hope it was a lot to at least get you started. If you have friends in your life who definitely need this information, people who may not even have access to Young Living products, please reach out to them. We'll have this recording available for you within the next couple of days. As always, you can find the recordings inside the Grow group. Jill on Call is amazing at posting all of that. And then if you have individual Facebook groups, I hope you're spreading this out to all of your teams. So next up, we do have an amazing speaker coming up. So we're going to stop this recording